This man has been lying on the ground for 24 hours, but he dares not move even a fraction of an inch, because behind him is a 100-meter cliff, where one wrong move could shatter his body on the rocks below. His fingers dig desperately into the ground, but the sandy soil is too loose. He can't hold on much longer, as his entire body slides toward the cliff edge. When his hands prove useless, he has no choice but to use his face as a brake, barely managing to stop. However, just then, his phone rings from inside his backpack. Should he answer it? If it's his wife calling, ignoring her would be 100 times worse than falling off the cliff. But the slightest movement of his hands would send him sliding downward, so he adjusts his position, keeping his face firmly against the ground, and switches hands to reach for the phone. However, just as he's about to grab it, the man becomes wedged at the cliff's edge. Below him lie pitch-black, razor-sharp rocks. Another 2 hours pass, and the double toll on his mind and body has pushed him to the brink of collapse. Suddenly, he begins muttering to himself. He's calculating the rhythm of waves hitting the rocks below. If he could use the water as a buffer, he might have a chance to survive. As his countdown finishes, the man lets go and leaps with all his might. He successfully plunges into the sea, but because the water is too shallow, his waist slams against the rocks. Using every ounce of strength, he finally manages to surface. Yet the real challenge has only just begun. After making it safely to shore, he carefully checks his body. Apart from a cut on his hand, everything seems fine, but when he tries to stand and lift his legs, the man realizes that the impact on his waist has left his lower limbs numb. At that moment, he remembers the phone in his backpack, but when he pulls it out, he sees it's completely waterlogged and won't turn on. Now he's truly screwed. All he can do is shout for help at the top of his lungs, but nobody would ever pass through this godforsaken place. With no other options, he uses his clothes to bandage his wound, then lies down on the rocks to rest and conserve his strength. Without realizing it, the man falls asleep. When he wakes up, the excruciating pain in his waist reminds him that he needs to find a solution fast. He begins to survey his surroundings. Climbing back up the cliff is impossible, but fortunately, he spots a small island in the distance, perhaps his only hope for survival. Summoning all his remaining strength, he rolls into the water with one powerful movement. However, reaching the island isn't as simple as he thought. With his legs paralyzed and one hand severely injured, he can only paddle slowly with his other hand, but he hasn't gone far before his strength begins to fail him. Just then, a sudden cramp seizes his abdomen, causing him to swallow a large gulp of water. His body loses all control, and sinks toward the ocean floor. In his near-death moment, the man thinks of his beloved wife. He refuses to die like this, and cause her heartbreak. This thought jolts him back to consciousness. He wildly swings his one good arm, desperately swimming upward, and through sheer willpower, he finally breaks the surface again. However, now an even more terrifying problem emerges. With his strength completely exhausted, he realizes he can neither swim to the island, nor return to where he started.